Alright, today I'm going to do a video about sleeping pads. I've done a video about sleeping bags and quilts and various items dealing with the sleep system. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about sleeping pads. I've gone over an evolution of pads over the years. I guess we're in about 16 years of sleeping pads. My first sleeping pad that I used, and I say used because I borrowed from my buddy Avalanche when we did a trip on the AT. And that kind of pad was a little bit different than what we're going to talk about today. It rolled up, but it was an insulated pad, and it didn't compress at all. It simply rolled up, and it had foam in it. But over the years, insulated pads, sleeping pads, foam pads have evolved, and I have so as well, the best that I can. Nowadays, sleeping pads are very expensive. They can be upwards to 200 bucks if you're looking at some of the upper end pads, especially if you're looking for one that's insulated and looking for one that's 25 inches wide. Right now, if you look on some of the more popular YouTube channels, you're seeing things like the Nemo Tensor pad, which is 25 inches wide. It has a very high R value, and so it can go down to temperatures that are extremely cold. So let's look at some of the pads that I have used and still have and use in different situations. First, let's talk about different options. The first thing I'd like to look at is a foam cell pad. Now I say cell, this is just foam. This is, I've said in my other videos, the Gossamer Gear 1/4 inch pad. This pad, and I'll show you here, this pad is very, very thin. But I saw this on Gossamer Gear's website, and I simply use this to protect the bottom of my sleeping pad. I think I've done a video on that, but it's a very thin 1/4 inch pad that's used to, you can use it as a sleeping pad. It's just that, you know, I'm getting older and I don't like to be out there just right on the ground. So a 1/4 inch foam is not something I would use for comfort of sleeping unless it really came into something ultralight that I wanted to do differently. But I use this under my sleeping pad just to protect it from rocks and roots and stumps and things like that. I carry it, I would say it's about an ounce. I just attach a rubber band around it, throw it in my in my backpack, and use it in my sleep system. But for the ultralight hiker, I guess you could use this probably coupled with a polycro type material underneath it for R value insulation and to protect you from the rain if you need it. This pad, which is rolled, and it is the short length pad. This Ridgecrest pad is by Cascades Design, had it for many, many years, and it is simply a kind of a foam closed cell pad that I have used mostly in my hammock. I have a double ply or a double fabric hammock, and so I'll put this in between the two fabrics of my hammock to give it some support and structure and just to widen it out a bit so that the mesh is off of me in my war bonnet hammock. So it's very rare that I will take this out and use it on my backpack, because no matter where you put it on your backpack, you certainly won't want to put it in your backpack unless you were using this as the structure of your backpack with no frame. You could widen it out and then put all your stuff in the middle. But because it's so wide, you can't compress it. I would say this is probably not one of the better options. One of the more popular, I think, Thermarest pads is the Z-Lite, which is a little more compressible because it folds on itself. I think Nemo makes one of these as well, a different style, but still the same foam waffle style pad that folds up neatly. Can be put on the top of your backpack or attached to the back, and this pad has been great for me. I've used it on several occasions. I do like it, though it's just not comfortable enough for me. As an older hiker, I want to be comfortable at night, and I want to feel like the insulation and the padding is something that's going to take the pressure off my hips and off my knees. So, Ultra Air Core by Big Agnes, and this pad is great. I have really enjoyed this pad. This is not the insulated pad. To me, this pad feels like something you would use in a swimming pool. It's just a little bit better fabric, a little bit thicker fabric, but it's not insulated. So you would only really want to use this type of pad if you were going in the summertime. I made the mistake one time of using it in a colder temperature, and the air in the pad got cool really quickly, and I was wondering why with my 20-degree quilt was I getting cold. And that was because my heat was simply going into the pad, and this coolness of the pad in the air was not insulated, so it wasn't helping me much. Though it was comfortable, it was not helping. Now, what I do like about the Big Agnes pads is this great dual system intake of air. You blow into one side and you release the air with the other, and it's a quick release, and the air comes out very quickly. And so I have been a big fan of this type of intake and release of air system. So much so that I have the insulated version as well. This is the Ultra Air Core, the same pad, the Big Agnes pad, except that it has the same, it has the same intake and outtake of air, the same comfortability. Two differences on this between this and the other Ultra Air Core that I have. Number one, it's insulated. But the R value tells me just how far I can go down with temperatures. But the R value on this Air Core Big Agnes pad is great. And I've had it down to temperatures of well into the 30s, maybe even 29, 28, and never got cold. The other big thing about this pad, and why I think it's one of the better pads on the market, and it would compare to the Nemo tensor pad, is that it's 25 inches wide. There is just something cool about sleeping on a pad that you don't roll off of and your elbows don't fall off of. It just creates a whole new experience. The downside of that is it's going to be a little bit heavier. Over the years, I've been a big fan of the Thermarest pad. Now this is the Pro Light regular pad, and the things that I like about this pad is that, again, it's a 20-inch pad. It's a little thinner than your Neo Air pads. It is insulated, but what I do like about it, and I've had it for many, many years and had no issues with the valve, is that it only takes about 5 or 6 breaths, maybe 5, to blow up this pad, which is great. This is what is great about this pad. Yes, it is a little bulkier. It has some of the tendencies of the old pads in that when you try to compress it down, it's not going to be as compressible as the Neo Air X-Lite or things like that, or even the Big Agnes pads I showed you. Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. There's enough videos and reviews on this thing to last for days, so I'm not reviewing it. I'm just talking about in this video different options of pads. But after a long time of looking, I finally got this pad because I just thought everything I've seen about it looks great. It is super light, and I'll put the weight in the video when we're done here. I'll add the weight to it. It's super light. It's the lightest pad that I have, and in the balance of options, that being the width, the length, the insulation, the R value, everything considered, I find this pad hard to beat because it compresses so much. The only downside that you'll see in some of the reviews is it is a little loud at first, but I think that loudness goes away after a period of time after using it. Anyway, thank you for watching As the Crow Flies Hiking. I appreciate you watching my video. I appreciate you, the people that subscribed and continue to watch this channel. If you like the video or find anything redeemable about this video that would help you, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and like this video. Anyway, I'll catch you next time on my next video of As the Crow Flies Hiking. I hope you enjoyed sleeping pads and the options.
Hey buddy, you want to be in the video? Oh, I know. Don't lean up against me. Get hair everywhere? Hey buddy. You want to lay on the sleeping pads? No?